Did we know this was coming?
No, in fact, it looked like they were clear, and there was some suggestion that maybe Google's business practices would change because they were no longer being investigated by the FTC. But now we look at this new investigation, and an interesting one at that, because this goes back 7 years to when Google first made this big acquisition to acquire a lot of the tools to sort of help. After Google's IPO, there were a bunch of companies that sprung up to sort of help people advertise in Google, not unlike we're seeing with Facebook, the sort of the other pretenders of social media. But we've seen the stock move in Google in 7 years of 135% rise, not for nothing. But what's been interesting is that this new antitrust probe is focusing on some tools that they added into their portfolio 7 years ago to focus on these advertising tools in particular that they acquired again about 7 years ago. And the tools that were purchased with this DoubleClick acquisition. It was an acquisition that, as I mentioned, took place in 2007. And what's interesting about this is the FTC approved this deal in 2007. They took a careful look at the competitive issues here. They looked at where Google was in the marketplace, and they said, go ahead.
So why now?
Part of it is because Google's just so dominant in search, and because they have that monopoly in search that they could be using it to sell other products around that. Now, the FTC earlier looked at some different things. Specifically, what they were looking at were the ways that Google was offering other services on the site against certain competitors. But now what we see them going after here is looking at this specific ad tools. And this is a little bit different than what we see happening in other places where Google is in the crosshairs. Google in particular is focused, as you mentioned, Canada. The Canada Competition Bureau is after them, looking at search. The European Union is also looking at search, and the European Union is looking at Motorola Mobility, which is acquired by Google. And Motorola Mobility is licensing some patents, and they're concerned about that licensing usage.
So what does this have to say about Google's leadership, how Larry Page is leading the company? I mean, he's the one that's been behind, the move towards Google+, for example.
Yeah, well, look, Larry's a very interesting guy, obviously one of the founders of the company, and back at the helm, even though we earlier had Eric Schmidt at the helm, and he maybe has a longer memory of what was going on with Microsoft in their antitrust battles. But this is certainly made difficult for them because they want to grow their business using the business they've got with the governments all over the world looking at them so carefully. It makes it harder to do so. All
right, Cory Johnson, our editor-at-large. Thank you. There's Larry Page.
He's kiteboarding.
Kiteboarding.
Do you want to know why?
I would like to know why.
I went kiteboarding last weekend, and I would just miss kiteboarding, so I thought I'd show Larry kiteboarding.
And we're going to see a piece.
You'll see me getting dragged through the water in Maui.
All right.
Eventually.
I'm looking for, eventually we will see this piece.